Welcome to Wawas on Wire. Today we're talking about Gusonskin's alarming prediction regarding the political future of Penang. Let's get right into it, because the political stakes in Penang, well, they feel higher than ever. For decades, the state has been a fortress for Pakatan Harapan, a real stronghold.
A bastion.
Exactly. But now we're seeing this detailed forecast, and not from some outside group, but from inside their own camp.
That's the critical part. This comes from Democratic Action Party leader Gusonskin, the chairman of the Balik Pulo division.
And he's laid out three very specific scenarios that he warns could, open the door for the National Alliance to actually take control.
And this isn't just rhetoric to fire up the base. Gusonskin has given what is basically a blueprint for how they could lose.
A blueprint for self-destruction, almost?
You could say that. He said very explicitly that if voters don't give strong, continued support, these trends will create the conditions for a national alliance government in Penang. It's a real plea for introspection.
Okay, so let's unpack this warning. The first trend he points to isn't about policy, it's about psychology. He calls it the change mentality.
It's this deep-seated desire for change, wanting a different government almost regardless of the consequences. It points to a kind of exhaustion with the status quo.
So people just want anyone but the incumbent.
That's the idea. And his analysis suggests this is happening across all three main ethnic groups in Penang. A significant block of voters is just tired. They want a fresh start, even if it feels like a riskier political experiment.
And this is where his warning gets really, really stark. He mentions a specific consequence, a specific thing voters seem willing to accept now.
He does. And it's the idea that these voters might support the National Alliance, even if it means, and this is the key part, accepting an elected representative from the Islamic Party as the chief minister of Penang.
Wow. Let's just pause on that for a second. That is a seismic shift.
It is.
For years, the Democratic Action Party's whole strategy, especially in urban areas, was built on warning against that exact outcome. That was the line in the sand.
Absolutely. The historical argument was that the current administration, for all its flaws, was a firewall against the Islamic Party component taking the top job.
But now he's saying that firewall is crumbling, that the desire for change is so strong that people are willing to look past those historical fears just to get rid of Pakatan Harapan.
That's precisely what he's warning against, that the disillusionment is becoming more powerful than the fear.
Okay, so if that's trend one, an active rejection, let's move to trend two. Gusonskin apparently called this one the most likely outcome.
He did. He called it the fatal flaw.
And this is the protest through silence, boycott voting.
Yes. And this one is so dangerous because it's passive. It's not voters switching sides. It's traditional Pakatan Harapan supporters, people who are disappointed with the government's performance, who just choose not to vote.
As a form of protest.
Exactly. They don't want the National Alliance, so they won't vote for them. But they're so let down by the incumbent that they can't bring themselves to vote for them either, so they stay home.
What's driving that kind of disappointment? Is it big things like the economy or smaller local issues?
It's a mix. It really boils down to the gap between what was promised and what was delivered. For a party that runs on reform and anti-corruption, if supporters feel the government has gotten too comfortable or failed on accountability, that feeling of betrayal is powerful.
So they stay home to send a message.
And that's where the political math becomes, as he puts it, the fatal flaw.
Because you have this apathy on one side. But what about the National Alliance base?
Well, Gusonskin notes that their supporters are the opposite. They're highly motivated, determined. He says they're even more eager to turn out and vote.
So you have one base staying home and the other showing up in full force.
And that changes everything. Think about it. A supposedly safe seat for Pakatan Harapan, a stronghold of Kangku, might be won by, say, 15,000 votes.
Huge margin.
It seems huge. But if your turnout drops by just 10% because your disillusioned voters don't show up, while the other side maintains their numbers, that massive majority just evaporates.
So the incumbent loses not because they were out-argued, but because their own base gave up on them.
Precisely. It becomes an unforced error. The voter is trapped, disappointed with their own party, but still afraid of the opposition. So they do nothing. And doing nothing passively helps the most motivated side.
It's terrifying for an incumbent. The enemy isn't the opposition, it's the fatigue of your own supporters.
It's the most difficult thing to fight. You can't counter it with attack ads or big rallies. The problem is internal. It suggests the party has failed to keep that connection with its core base.
Which brings us to trend three. This one is less about voter psychology and more about the structure of the election itself.
Right. The emergence of a third force.
The spoiler. one designed specifically to split the vote.
And what's interesting here is that this third force isn't really expected to win any seats. Its entire purpose, strategically, is to damage Pakatan Harapan's vote share.
And he got very specific about who might be in this coalition of chaos. First, he mentioned factions from within Pakatan Harapan.
Anti-Anwar forces, yes. Internal dissent spilling out into an external challenge. It's a classic move. If you have figures who disagree with the prime minister's leadership, they can run independently and become a magnet for disgruntled voters.
Then he mentioned the Malaysian Chinese Association and the Malaysian Indian Congress, the traditional Barisan national partners.
He suggests they might exit that coalition and contest on their own. This makes things very complicated because they would pull votes in those marginal mixed seats that Pakatan Harapan needs to win.
And finally, he even threw Party Warisan Sabah into the mix, a Borneo-based party re-entering peninsula politics.
It just adds another layer of fragmentation. The goal of this messy third force, as you said, isn't to govern. It's just to peel off a few hundred here, 1,000 there, specifically from the Pakatan Harapan column.
So even if this third force gets 0 seats, they could still decide the election.
That's the spoiler effect. Gusonskin's conclusion is that it's a very real threat. In a tight three-way race, if you draw votes away from the leading party, the number 2 party, in this case, the National Alliance, can slip through and win.
Okay, so let's put it all together. You have active rejection, you have passive protest, and you have this external vote splitting.
And they all lead to the same place.
The same terrifying conclusion for the incumbent.
They do. Whether the administration is rejected by the change mentality, undermined by the boycott, or defeated by the third source, the strategic outcome is identical. It creates the fatal conditions for the National Alliance to form the government in Penang.
So what's the takeaway for Pakatan Harapan's leadership? It sounds like they need to stop focusing so much on attacking the National Alliance.
And focus more on their own house. The battle is internal. The key is addressing that deep disappointment among their core supporters, the ones thinking about boycotting. They have to convince them that staying home is a bigger risk than voting for a flawed incumbent.
That requires some real, genuine introspection, not just a new campaign slogan.
Absolutely. They have to make an urgent case for why participation still matters. Because, really, a National Alliance victory seems to rest on Pakatan Harapan simply failing to get its own base out the door.
It makes you wonder then. We've talked about these 3 potential threats: the desire for radical change, the quiet protest of boycotting, or a spoiler party. For you, which of these poses the biggest risk to any incumbent in Malaysia today? That boycott feels so insidious.
I'd have to agree. That protest through abstention, trend 2, is the most existentially challenging threat. It's silent, it's decentralized, and it's almost impossible to fight with traditional campaigning. The voter who decides to stay home has already decided the effort isn't worth it. And that decision comes from a deep place of frustration. It's a symptom of a political illness that can't be fixed overnight.
Which leaves us with a really stark thought, doesn't it? The biggest threats to power might not come from a stronger opposition. Sometimes they come from your own supporters, just quietly refusing to play the game anymore. It's a profound challenge for any long-standing government. Remember to like and subscribe for more videos like this.